This is Rick Rule for the Natural Resources Investment Symposium 2021 edition, the virtual edition. Thank you everybody for being here. We're going to have a great session today. I'd like to begin by introducing and thanking Mark Cruz, CEO of New Pacific Minerals. Mark, thank you for your efforts on behalf of your shareholders, and thank you for your sponsorship of the conference this year.
Thanks, Rick. It's great to be back.
Let's do a brief overview of New Pacific so that the listeners can take the rest of the questions in context. Who are you? What are you about?
Sure. Very simply, New Pacific Metals is an exploration company that's successfully making the transition to a developer on the back of a very large silver discovery in Bolivia about a year ago, our Silver Sand project. And we are fortunate that we've got some very large, silver producers, backing the company, Silver Corp and Pan American Silver, which certainly kind of makes us a little bit different from your normal exploration, development story, I guess.
I think that's very true. Let's begin by talking about, rather than your physical silver resources, your human resources. Who are you guys? What have you done in the past that should give our attendees the confidence that you'll be able to do it in the future?
Yeah, listen, we've been very fortunate, the management team in our careers, to be involved in multiple discoveries from the initial drill hole and taking them right the way through the value chain, through development into production. I think, Silver Sand, if it goes the full distance, will be my 6th or 7th discovery / mine. So found them and built them in Peru, Canada, basically Europe and Africa. And a lot of the management team are the same as well. A lot of us come from the kind of mid-tiers or super major background. So very comfortable with large projects of this size in developing nations. Similarly as well, if you look to the board, as mentioned, 2 very large shareholders that have board representation. So the Chair and CEO of Silver Corp, who is our largest shareholder, Ri Feng, sits on the board, massively supportive. They've funded the company and maintained their position right the way through since the company's inception in 2017. And similar with Pan American Silver as well. Their SVP Technical Services, Martin Waffhorn, sits on the board as well. So, certainly I like to think of it as we've got an excellent internal peer review process going on, and that allows us to punch way above our weight for a company of our size.
Delightful to hear, actually. Your description of your backers gives me deja vu. I remember financing Ri Feng in Silver Corp, if my memory serves me correctly, at 35 cents 20 some odd years ago. And I suspect the annual dividend now exceeds the original share purchase price. Then, of course, Pan American has been long friends of ours. We financed them at 50 cents a share on their way to $45. I concur that you are very well backed. Those are 2 spectacular groups. Let's move on to the asset. Tell us something about Silver Sand. Tell us something about why that deposit is attractive enough that you have been able to attract both Silver Corp and Pan American.
Yeah, if we stand back and look at macro silver space, or pretty much any commodity, to be honest, Rick, there haven't been many significant global discoveries called the last decade or more. Specifically, dealing with silver, there's probably 2 or 3 large development projects out there. We're one of them. So certainly a lack of product out there. But what makes the Silver Sand deposit attractive is it starts at surface. So yes, the engineering studies are ongoing, but it will be an open pit. And typically open pits tend to be cheaper to build, lower cost to operate, and safer. And they also tend to have larger production profiles. So really it's a combination. It's quality of asset starting at surface, and it's the scalability that it may bring, subject to the ongoing test work. And really, if you're a large silver producer, it looks like it's got all the hallmarks there that it could move the needle in your production profile. And they're, coveted assets globally. So I think that's why we've got, obviously very supportive, and everyone's pretty intrigued to see how the PIA study looks at the end of this year.
Talk to us about where you are thus far in terms of tonnage and grade. Is this, as an example, in the context of the open pit world, a reasonably high grade deposit?
Yes, it will be. So tonnage grade, firstly, it's drilled, measured and indicated, which a little bit, I think we take a conservative approach to project development. So, certainly looking for the opportunity. So our measured and indicated about 35 million tons at about 140 grams per ton silver. which gives us about 156 million ounces contained. Smaller inferred at 35 million tons at 110 grams for another 35 million ounces. So all in, call it 190 million ounces. To put the grade into context, average global grade of underground silver mines about 180 grams per ton. We're already at about 140, call it, sticking out of the surface. So certainly looks like we're, certainly in the upper half of the deposit type. And probably what's more exciting for me as an exploration geologist originally is the deposit remains open. We still haven't defined the full extent of the deposit, and that's going to be one of the main aims, which hopefully we're not successful with, and it keeps getting bigger. I think there's a very good probability that may occur on the back of this year's exploration program.
Well, let's talk about the value add over the next 12 months. Do you see it as a consequence of getting a better understanding of the existing deposit? You mentioned that you're in the sort of PFS stage. Do you see the deposit getting larger, or are you going to be able to deliver both?
Very high probability we'll deliver both. What makes this unique actually as a deposit is it's silver only. And I said, well, as you do know, Rick, a lot of these silver deposits typically have base metal credits, typically zinc and lead. But really what that's telling us about this, we think we're too high in the system. We just haven't found the more base metal rich parts yet, which speaks to the potential size, the upside. Now, yes, it could be too deep. We'll have to wait and see. But it does tell us that the deposit remains open. It remains open at depth and along strike. And the guys recognized it. Still no feeder zones. And these big deposits globally always have these very high-grade feeder zones typically associated with them. And it's just there hasn't been time. It's such a large system. It's about 1.5 kilometers long. It's 600 and 700 meters wide. It's at least 250 meters thick. So it's just getting the time to get those drill holes in and just continue to define the extent. So certainly in my career, I think it's very low risk exploration. The big ones tend to get bigger for whatever reason. All the right things were happening in the Earth's crust to form these giant deposits. And we're in the right terrain to do it. I mean, Cerro Rico, one of the world's largest silver mines, 35 kilometers down the road. And it's amazing how little exploration has occurred in the region on the back of that. So yes, we think it will get bigger. How much bigger? Let's wait and see. I mean, obviously we'll put news release out there, but very high probability that it could grow substantially. And obviously that will all feed into hopefully superior economics and continue to de-risk the project.
I was going to draw people's attention to Cerro Rico, not suggesting necessarily that it's an analog, but perhaps for the people watching this video that have lives outside of mining, you could talk about Cerro Rico, Potosi, what it is, why people like me smile when you say those words.
Yeah, listen, I'm a bit of a history nerd as well. Maybe it goes with the terrain, but Cerro Rico is it built the Spanish Empire. It was discovered inverted quotes mid 1500s. It's been operating for 500 years. So certainly from 1500s till mid to late 1700s, until Mexico took over as the world big silver producer, it paid for the Spanish Empire. Effectively, this one little mine that produced about 1.6 billion ounces of silver. And it's still going today, 500 years later, and it's still haven't defined the extent of it. So a lot of history tied up in Potosi area where we are in Cerro Rico, and really that's what's interesting on silver sand is historic mining started probably around the same time, late 1500s, early 1600s, and really modern exploration stopped there in the mid 1850s at the end of the colonial period until New Pacific went there, looked at it with different eyes, a different exploration model for its bulk tonnage potential, and lo and behold, here we are with a brand new significant discovery.
Do I need to be concerned about metallurgy or process and technology recovery?
So far, no red flags, recognizing the work is ongoing as part of those advanced engineering studies. One of the things, recovery met work today is very simple. And the reason, so recovery is anywhere between 85 to 95%. So that's great. You can find it. You're getting a lot of payable silver out of it. And one of the reasons we think so is because it's silver only. So there's no other commodities, no other metals in there that will really screw up effectively your reagents or your flow sheet. So it should lead to a very simple process flow sheet. We like simple things. It's really good when you're de-risking your project. Simple is definitely your friend. And so really, we've got several ways to extract the silver. And one of the ones is what's the most cost-effective most efficient way to do that. And those findings will be out as part of the PIA study. But certainly, I mean, I think for analogies, it looks very similar to our shareholder Pan American, their Dolores open pit silver mine in Mexico, in that it should lead itself to a very simple mining process flow sheet. And hopefully on the back of that, throw out a lot of payable silver on an annual basis.
Let's deal with the thing that probably has a few people nervous. Bolivia, other than the fact that you found 190 million ounces there. Talk to us about why you're in Bolivia and why people need to be less concerned than they may otherwise be.
Yeah, listen, I mean, Bolivia has, gone through their, last 14, 15 years. It was a very left of center party, MAS, running the country. Certainly, since then, as they've been rolling out infrastructure, paying for their social programs, it's become increasingly, probably even up to about 5 years ago, industry friendly. The government recognized that it needs foreign investment if it wants to build its social infrastructure. So it is definitely open for business. They have gone through elections. So again, that's always a time, no matter where you are, of uncertainty. New president, former minister of mines. And certainly his marching orders to his cabinet is, we want foreign investment in Bolivia in all sectors. Mining is a very strategic sector within Bolivia. So they're looking to, obviously develop their large lithium resources, but also their traditional more mining products, which would be silver, tin, etc. within that. So certainly, pro mining, pro foreign investment, and seeking to increase that investment in the country. And certainly, I mean, quite a few foreign companies are there. You've got Sumitomo operating the large San Cristobal mine, which is quite famous, top 10 silver producer globally in its own right. And you've got our shareholders, Pan American Silver, been there since 1995. They've been operating their San Vicente mine since 2005. So very comfortable with the jurisdiction as well. And what we are seeing, I guess, in a more of a regional picture, as Chile's talking about increasing taxes, Peru is going through its election process. We're actually starting to see a lot more junior explorers starting to I guess, look to Bolivia and turn to Bolivia. So if anything, we see it becoming increasingly attractive over the next, call it 5-year plus period to an ongoing foreign investment. And especially if you're looking for the potential for large precious metal deposits, it's grossly underexplored.
Not to belabor it, but you and your people feel physically safe working in rural Bolivia.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Very, very friendly people. No issues whatsoever. Yeah.
Now the industry has experienced some problems in West Mexico, another silver district recently, which has caused investors to be concerned. Let's move on, though. Two things briefly. The first, tell us what you think the most important unanswered question is with regards to the valuation and how soon that will be addressed. In other words, what's the critical news flow coming to us in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, two main things. The first one is going to be that prelim economic assessment. So that will put bounds around what a future operation might look like. So that will look at how much it's going to cost to build it, so the CapEx, what it's going to cost to operate it, the OpEx, and the timelines. So clearly, and how much silver it will throw at an annual basis. So really then we'll see, okay, how significant could this deposit be on a global stage? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is going to be the ongoing exploration. So, the deposit as it is today, it's still open. It is just a snapshot. So how big could it be? How big may it get? And then can we find other ones? We believe, that silver sand is not a unique occurrence in Bolivia. We think there's more to find out there. And with that in mind, we're testing 2 of our other projects. We've got a very active project development team in Bolivia looking for the next silver sands that are out there. So we don't think this is a flash in the pan, and we think there's more to be found. And we believe firmly we've got the skill set and the team to do that.
Mark, obviously in 15 minutes we can't cover all of the attributes that you've worked so hard and so long putting in place. For attendees that would like to engage in discussion and find out more about New Pacific, how and where might they go about doing that?
Yeah, listen, I'd really encourage everyone to come by the booth as part of the conference. Certainly I'll be there. Stacy Pavlova, our VP IOR, Corp Comms will be there manning the booth. So please bring your questions, bring your comments. We love hearing from you. It kind of, makes our day, and we always get great questions and feedback. And then the other place is our website as well. So newpacificmetals.com, where a lot of the background data and information will be there. And I will maybe even join you. I'm actually on the way to Bolivia to the project now. So hopefully to look at some, let's see, new silver mineralization once we get those rigs turning. But yeah, hopefully we'll have some, positive news in the very near future.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for your efforts on behalf of your shareholders over the last year. Thank you, too, for your continued support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. We look forward to your participation in the conference.
That's great. Once again, many thanks, Rick, and talk to you later.